سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ یہ رشک جس پہ صدا خاک کربلا تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ شہید کون سا گزرا ہے پورے عالم میں، شہید کون سا گزرا ہے پورے عالم میں، سینا کی نوک پہ جو ذکر ہے، سینا کی نوک پہ جو ذکر ہے، لا الہ تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ لب فرات وہ بازو کٹا کے سویا ہے، لب فرات وہ بازو کٹا کے سویا ہے، عباس جیسی جہاں میں، عباس جیسی جہاں میں، کوئی وفا تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ میں بابا آپ کا بیٹا ہے گو کہ اصغر ہوں، میں بابا آپ کا بیٹا ہے گو کہ اصغر ہوں، کہو لائی سے ستم کی، کہو لائی سے ستم کی، وہ انتہا تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ کہاں سے لاؤ گے ایسا جگر جو دین کے لیے، کہاں سے لاؤ گے ایسا جگر جو دین کے لیے، عصر سے پہلے 72، عصر سے پہلے 72 کو جو جدا تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ کیا حسین نے جیسے ہے صبر کربل میں، کیا حسین نے جیسے ہے صبر کربل میں، امیر صبر پہ یوں کوئی، امیر صبر پہ یوں کوئی اکتفا تو کرے، کوئی حسین سا سجدہ بلا ادا تو کرے۔ علم کے نیچے جو مانگو قبول ہوتی ہے، علم کے نیچے جو मांगो कबूल होती है। खलूस दिल से कोई शख्स, खलूस दिल से कोई शख्स गर दुआ तो करे। कोई हुसैन सा सजदा बलादा तो करे। कोई हुसैन सा सजदा बलादा तो करे। वर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।
Can I request everyone to move towards the member? I'd like to humbly request Sheikh Mohammad Al-Hilli to take the pulpit and address the gathering. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونستعين به ونتوكل عليه، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وخاتم الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين، سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the purification of the souls, the enlightenment of the hearts, the acceptance of the deeds, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the awaited Saviour, Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, enlighten your souls and the atmosphere with the recitation of salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected elders, sisters and brothers, Salamun Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi Ta'ala wa Barakatuh. Lady Sukaina is the daughter of Sayyid al-Shuhada and the sister of Imam Zayn al-Abidin al-Sajjad salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'in. And is an individual of great importance, brilliant emphasis and praise by the Ahl al-Bayt alayhum as-salam. When it comes to the study of the women of Karbala, there exists a number of difficulties for historians, those who analyze the 10th of Muharram, as well as many others who read literature related to the tragedy of Karbala. And that is specifically with regards to, for example, the names of the women who were there on the day of Ashura and witnessed the tragedy itself. There is sometimes a confusion regarding who is who. As an example, you may have come across the idea that some scholars have that on the day of Ashura, there was a lady by the name of Kulthum. Some have said Kulthum is the same as Sayyida Zainab. And so they say that sometimes Sayyida is referred to as Zainab and sometimes as Kulthum. But the reality is, through extensive study, that Kulthum had her distinctive personality. She was known as an individual who accompanied Sayyida Zainab, her older sister. They were both born to Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidatul Nisa, Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'in. And Kulthum had a role in Karbala, and also she gave a famous sermon in Kufa. The confusion is as a result of many of the women of the Ahlul Bayt being protected, but also historians not paying attention to make the distinction between who they are. And so as a result, some confused Kulthum with Sayyida Zainab and vice versa. When it comes to the existence of the women in Karbala, one of those ladies who I don't think has been given enough attention and praise, but arguably had one of the most important impacts and was very close to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and probably the second most impactful lady after Sayyida Zainab in Karbala, was this woman by the name of Sukaina. Now, Sukaina is not the same as Sakina, because many times in many different communities you hear the confusion between Sukaina and Sakina bint al-Hussein. Imam alayhi salam had a number of daughters, as we will discuss. One of them was the 3-4-year-old martyred young daughter of Imam, who is buried in Sham today, known by many as Ruqayya, and in some communities as Sakina, which is not a problem. But Sukaina is a different person altogether. She was a 13-14-year-old teenager who was there in Karbala, witnessed many of the events, and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had a special love for her. And you will not find her discussed much from the minbar for some reason. You will not find an analysis of her life when it comes to this illustrious lady. This evening I'd like to shed light on this sister of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam and the daughter of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Why? Because unfortunately she is one of many of the members of the Ahlul Bayt that has been subject to character assassination and unfair targeting in historical works. Today, even on YouTube, she's a victim of attack by several speakers from our brothers from other schools. And it's of the utmost importance that as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, that we are the defenders of the integrity, the dignity, the reputation, and the nobility of the Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam. If somebody today, and has been the subject of me being asked by some of the scholars from other schools, they've said, this Sukaina bint al-Hussein, we have a number of narrations regarding her. Is it true that she did this and she did that and so on and so forth? And therefore there is a need for you and I to be well equipped with what others think about important personalities, but also what is the position of the school of Ahlul Bayt. There are people who are asked how many women were there on the day of Ashura. On the plains of Karbala, we often hear of the heroics of the females. No doubt, they were outstanding and a wonderful example how the religion of Islam honors females and women. In a discussion today that you will have with non-Muslims, when they come forward and say, what is the position of Islam regarding females? Don't forget to utilize or to speak about Karbala and the women of Karbala. Because the women of Karbala truly demonstrated great values within the religion of Islam, headed by this mountain of patience, this wonderful individual who is a role model for both men and women, Sayyida Zainab al-Kubra, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha. There are many lessons to be learned, and that's why Charles Dickens, one of the famous historians and British writers, comes forward and says what? He says, I am convinced that Karbala and Ashura was there, and Hussein ibn Ali was mainly seeking to defend the religion of Islam because he brought his women with him. And as a result of bringing his women with him, it goes to show that he had no other goals other than to establish the religion, because this is not something people would do. The recognition at the same time is that sometimes we do not know how many women were there and who were they. According to research conducted by the Imam Hussein alayhi salam in shrine in Karbala, the following have been deduced, but it doesn't mean that this is necessarily conclusive, because you will have different opinions, because as I said, some of the females were not well known and historians didn't necessarily pay too much attention to some others. The research has come forward and said that when it comes to the women, there were approximately 20 who survived the battle and were taken later as slaves and paraded in the streets of Kufa and Sham. Amongst them, a number of them were the daughters of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Like who? There is one of them by the name of Fatima bint Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now this Fatima is very interesting. In addition to Sayyida Zainab and Kulthum, Fatima was somebody who in the courtyard of Yazid was the subject of one of the Roman ambassadors seeking to take her as a slave. When he looked at Fatima, he said, I want her to take her as a servant. At that moment, the narration says, Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam stood up and says, Kalla wallah, ma ja'ala Allahu dhalika lak. Allah has not allowed you to do this. She addressed who? Yazid, because Yazid would say to this man, you can have whomsoever you wish. Sayyida said, Allah has not given you the permission to do this. At that moment, she said to him, Illa an takhruj min millatina, unless you declare that you're not a Muslim. وَتُدِينُ بِغَيْرِ دِينِنَا, and you declare that you follow a different religion. Yazid said, إِنَّمَا خَرَجَ مِنَ الدِّينِ أَبُوكَ وَأَخُوكَ. The one who left religion is your father and your brother. Look at the insults that were taking place. And today, over 1 billion Muslims, they revere and respect a man by the name of Ibn Taymiyyah, who says there was no such story as captives. There was no such thing as the Ahlul Bayt taken from one city to another. It's all fallacy, it's all lies. And he and his works are taught in madrasas in the United States, United Kingdom, and many other places. And people respect him. Yes? The father of terrorism, the one who Daesh considered to be their role model, and would give them many of the fatwas to killing innocent civilians. This is who? Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah. They call him Shaykh al-Islam. He is the one who denies all this existed. Yes? Now, what further happened? Yazid said, no, your father and your brother is the one who left religion. She replied, she said, بِدِينِ اللَّهِ وَدِينِ أَبِي وَدِينِ أَخِي وَجَدِّي اهْتَدَيْتَ أَنْتَ وَأَبُوكَ وَجَدِّكَ. He says, it was the religion of Allah, the religion of my father, the religion of my grandfather, the religion of my brother. You and your brother and your father were invited to, and you seem to accept. I think it's not our religion, it's our religion that you followed. Yazid said to her, كذبتِ يا عدوة الله. You are a liar, O the enemy of Allah. Sayyida Zainab replied, أنت أمير. You think that you are flexing your muscles. تشتم ظاهرا. You want to curse and use bad words and use your strength. Is that who you are? At that moment she would say, if you want to take her, you must take me first. So she, Sayyida Zainab, defended Fatima, her sister. Who's who? Tonight we're going to mention many names. You might get confused. So I need you to be focused with me. Fatima is the daughter of Imam Ali alayhi salam. She was amongst those who were captive. Who else? There's a lady by the name of Khadija. Could be the first time you hear. There's a lady by the name of Khadija, the daughter of Imam Ali alayhi salam. She was there in Karbala amongst the captives. At the same time, who was there? We are told there was an individual by the name of course, Rabab. She is the wife of the Imam alayhi salam. We have also Hamida bint Muslim, the young daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. We have another daughter of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen by the name of Ruqayya bint Ali, and she was the wife of Muslim ibn Aqil. So the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen was the wife of whom? Muslim ibn Aqil. Then you have her son by the name of Abdullah, who was martyred in the plains of Karbala. The son of whom? The son of Muslim ibn Aqil and this particular lady Ruqayya, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then you have of course a famous lady, very important that you know this, Fatima, the daughter of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. She is whom? She is the wife of Imam Zain al-Abidin and the mother of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'in. This Fatima is the mother of an Imam, the sister of an Imam, a daughter of an Imam, and what? And she's the grandmother of another Imam. Brilliant individual, but I've given a lecture about her life, check it out. Brilliant person who has achieved much, and we found authentic narrations that says from the progeny of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, she was the greatest. She was the greatest from the progeny of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Now, of course, we have, in addition to Layla, according to some narrations, a lady by the name of Ishaq, who was the wife of Imam al-Mujtaba and later married Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam under the instructions of Imam Mujtaba. Now, the idea that exists is what? Amongst these women, there were a number of daughters of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Who were the daughters of Imam Al-Hussein that were there in Karbala? Number one, we have a lady by the name of Fatima al-Kubra. Fatima al-Kubra is again not talked about much, but she was there. Another lady by the name of Fatima al-Sughra. Now, in some communities, they refer to the young girl of Imam al-Hussein who stayed in Medina as Sughra. But the reality is that lady who stayed in Medina, the young one who was sick, she was known as Fatima, in historical records, Fatima the sick one, the Alila. Yes? So, the name Fatima was beloved to the Ahl al-Bayt. For example, the seventh holy Imam had 4 daughters who he named Fatima. Can you imagine? What were they called? Fatima al-Kubra, Fatima al-Sughra, Fatima the older one, Fatima the younger one, Fatima al-Wusta, Fatima the middle one. What would you call the 4th Fatima? Fatima al-Ukhra, the other Fatima. Can you imagine? That's how much they loved the name Fatima. Yes? Because it was a blessed name that they would wish to revive in the Ummah. Here, Sayyid al-Shuhada also did the same. He had Fatima al-Kubra and he had Fatima al-Sughra. Interestingly, Fatima al-Sughra was the wife of whom? A man by the name of Hassan al-Muthanna. I told you, you're going to have so many names. Who is Hassan al-Muthanna? He's the son of Imam al-Mujtaba, who was there in Karbala, was injured and survived. His hands were chopped off. When he survived, he was already married to Fatima al-Sughra, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. From that marriage, they had a number of children. Amongst their children was a man by the name of Hassan, what? Al-Muthallath, the 3rd Hassan. So Hassan al-Muthanna was a son of Imam al-Mujtaba. His name was also Hassan. And there was another one from his sons by the name of Hassan, the 3rd Hassan that we have in narrations. As well as, of course, Ruqayya bint al-Hussein, who was 3 or 4 years of age. A lady by the name of Atika bint al-Hussein and Sukaina. So, according to most research, there were 5 daughters of Imam al-Hussein who were there on the plains of Karbala. But there are some scholars, I've come and suggested 1 or 2 others, but the majority have the opinion that it was 5. 5 daughters of Sayyid al-Shuhada were there and witnessed the tragedy on the 10th of Muharram. The individual that I'd like to look at is Sukaina. And this Sukaina is fascinating personality. Why? Because there are difference of opinions regarding her age in Karbala. Some say she was approximately 20. Others say no, most likely she was 12, 13. So that makes her date of birth the year 48 after Hijrah. Question, who is her mother? Her mother is what? Is Rabab. Her mother is Rabab. And therefore this makes her the sister of the slaughtered 6-month-old baby. So now we have who? We have this Sukaina who's 13 and the 6-month-old Ali al-Asghar are the 2 children of Rabab from, of course, the marriage with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now this particular lady is important. Why? Because today there's been a suggestion that her name is not Sukaina. Why? Please pay attention to this, because I was in Chicago and I had a heated debate with one of the individuals there only last year, because he refused to accept her name was Sukaina, despite the fact that we have many of our ulama have written books and everything. His argument, and I've seen this online, is in Arabic, Sukaina means what? One of the meanings of the word Sukaina is female donkey, which in English means Jenny. One of the name given to a female donkey mule is Jenny in English. So he said to me, how can Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam name his daughter according to this? So it can't be Sukaina. Yes. Now, unfortunately, sometimes when you and I come to an idea or someone whispers something in our minds, we like to impose it on history. We like to make others believe what we believe. Yes. But the reality of the situation is that Sukaina comes from sukun, number 1. Number 2, it comes from sakan, which means a child which runs and is very active. Yes, it's possible that one of the terms used back in the time is in reference to this. However, it was widely known that the name Sukaina has either a connection to tranquility and inner peace, or a child that was fairly running and active. When it comes to this lady, this particular individual stood out in her life for a number of outstanding qualities. Please pay attention so that we honor her, as she is the sister of Imam alayhi salam and the daughter of the Sayyid Shuhada. She was known for her generosity. She was truly a magnanimous person. Meaning, one time she heard that Imam Zayn al-Abidin al-Sajjad salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, in the book Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya by Ibn Kuthayr, it is narrated that when she heard the fourth Imam was leaving Medina to go and distribute some food and money to the poor around the area, she picked up 1,000 dirhams that she had and gave it to her brother and said, please take this and distribute it to the needy and the poor. And this is recorded in history as one of the examples, and many would then say that amongst the most noble and generous ladies of her time was Sukaina bint al-Hussein, because she was known for the fact that she looked to do good. She looked to improve the lives of others. And for a lady to be recorded to be like this is something which shows that she was doing it on a regular basis. The other thing that indeed we are told that she was known for is what? Is the idea of looking out for her family, but especially her close relationship with the fourth holy Imam. Meaning what? There are narrations that I saw that she went to Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh. She went to Jabir, who was in Medina, and said to him, Jabir, you are a companion of the Prophet. I am a granddaughter of the Prophet. I have come to you with a request. He says, oh lady, you are very well known, respected. How can I help you? What is it I can do for you? She said to him, my brother, Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zayn al-Abidin, has not stopped crying since Karbala. And I am very worried for him. I am very worried for his health. This was several years after, 61 years after Hijrah. And I would like you, as a companion of the Prophet, to have a word with him, because I am just fearful for his health. And notice that this lady, to the extent that she would like to indeed protect and look after her brother Zayn al-Abidin in such a manner, despite Imam alayhi salam being older than her. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam was older. According to narrations, he was probably 24 or 27 or so on the day of Ashura. But she was only 13. But at the same time, she had that incredible feeling of protection for her own brother. Another interesting narration that we have is regarding the love that Imam alayhi salam had for her. Which Imam? Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. What was demonstrated? We are told Imam had a piece of land in Medina which he sold. But this land had a well. One of the conditions he placed in the selling of this well, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, is he said, I would like my sister Sukaina to have access to this well because she needs to feed her cattle and her animals. And if provided you, the purchaser, are happy for her to bring her animals and whatever she had to this well, I will sell this land for you. That he was also thinking about whom? He's thinking about his own sister and whatever she needed at the same time. Another beautiful hallmark of this great daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam from historical records is that she was a defender of wilaya, and specifically the integrity and honor and reputation of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. The recognition is today, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you all tawfiq to perform Umrah or Hajj. Those who go to Madinatul Munawwara, there is an area that only the Shias call Bainul Haramain. It's an area between Jannatul Baqi and the shrine and the mosque of the Holy Prophet. That area today has no houses, but it used to have the houses of Bani Hashim. Don't delay going to these holy sites. Sometimes we take these for granted. Sometimes we think, Alhamdulillah, one day I will go. And when COVID hit, many people started to panic. Maybe I will never go for ziyarah again. Maybe I will never go for Majlis again. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has given us the opportunity to go. Now, it's very easy to go. But one of the things I recommend mu'mineen and mu'minat, and I have had this the last year or 2 years specifically, because Alhamdulillah, more and more people are going for Umrah. Many are going for Umrah without preparing as far as the fiqh. And many are doing many mistakes. They go, do Umrah, come back. Oh, Maulana, I went and I didn't know I have to do Tawaf al-Nisa. God help you if you're married. Because you can't have any relations with your wife if you don't do Tawaf al-Nisa. And when I say this to them on WhatsApp, they freak out. Is there a way out? Can I pay someone? Can I do something? Why didn't you read the ahkam and the fiqh before you go? You think it's easy? It's not as easy going for ziyarah. Umrah has its own rules. Be equipped. Today there are resources out there. Ask ulama. Tell me, what shall I do? How do I do ihram? What are the things I should not do? You know, people take umrah lightly, thinking it's not hajj. It's okay, I can go by myself. Go with a group. Best option is to go with a group. With an alim who will tell you, listen, don't do this, don't do this. If you need to do this, you need to pay kafara. Make sure you do this, make sure that, and so on and so forth. So that you are well equipped when it comes to this important act of worship. In that area between Jannatul Baqi' and the shrine of the Holy Prophet, there used to be houses of Bani Hashim. She had a house there. Sukaina salamullahi alayha lived until she was approximately 80 or 90 years of age, according to many narrations. And she lived in Medina. Much of her life was in Medina. When she had a house there was a man by the name of Khalid ibn Abdul Malik. He was one of the wretched governors and individuals from Bani Umayyah. He would come to Masjid al-Nabawi and order many people to curse in the masjid Amir al-Mu'mineen. And that person would stand and start using vulgar language against the commander of the faithful. Sukaina salamullahi alayha, when she would hear this, what she would do, she would gather her slaves and servants, ladies, and she would say, go, now it's the time for you to do your job. What did they used to do? They used to go to Masjid al-Nabawi and they used to speak to people. And they used to say to them, did you know the Prophet of Islam says, Ana Madinatul Ilmi wa Aliyum Babuha? Do you know that the Prophet says that I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate? Do you know that the Prophet of Islam says, Aliyun ma'al haq wal haqqu ma' Ali? Ali is with the truth and the truth is Ali. But the truth revolves around Ali ibn Abi Talib. And these important narrations, yes, أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. You are to me like what Aaron was to Moses, except that there's no prophet after me. So what happened was that these servants of Sukaina would spread these ahadith, and these governors of Bani Umayyah would be outraged. So the riwayat say they would slap and they would hit those ladies. They say, stop talking. Don't go and speak about the fadail of Ali ibn Abi Talib. But they continued. And they were all under the direction of whom? This great daughter of whom? Of Sayyid al-Shuhada. The other thing that she's a narrator of hadith. So she narrates a beautiful hadith, for example, from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it's a hadith that requires a series of majalis. But it's a hadith with profound impact on our lives. The hadith, she said, that the Prophet of Islam said, Hamalatul Quran, Urafa'u Ahlul Jannah. Those who truly carry the Quran are the Gnostics, the mystics of the people of paradise. What does it mean that somebody becomes the Arif in Jannah? An Arif is somebody who has deeper recognition and cognizance of something. Ma'rifah. So today the individuals who truly carry the Quran, not like what the Quran says in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, like those individuals who carry the Torah just like a mule, when you put the books on top of a mule, doesn't know what's going on. But the carrying of the Quran means understanding the responsibility related to the Quran. Not only reciting and memorizing, but understanding its meaning and applying it to our lives and spreading its teachings. This important hadith highlights that an individual who is truly in sync with Quran would enjoy the bounties of Jannah in a more profound way. Would be able to experience Jannah in a much more deeper sense. What this lady, however, truly stands out with is her close relationship with the master of martyrs, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Please understand the following, because I have had people who have listened to this and then have had a lot of questions in their mind because they weren't paying attention. What happened was that Al-Hasan al-Muthanna, who is Hasan al-Muthanna? The son of Imam al-Hasan, who survived Karbala, came to Imam al-Hussein before Karbala and said to him, my uncle, I would like to marry your daughter Sukaina. I would like to marry one of your daughters. According to some narrations, he asked for Sukaina, but most likely he asked for one of the daughters. Imam alayhi salam said to him, أختار لك فاطمة, but the one I choose for you is Fatima الصغرى. Why? Imam says, فإنها أكثر شبها بأم فاطمة, because she resembles my mother Fatima the most. وأما سكينة, because it seems that Hassan al-Muthanna wanted who? Sukaina. Imam says, no, Sukaina I'm not going to give her to you. Why? فغالب عليها الاستغراق بالله. She is focused her life primarily in the worship and the remembrance of Allah. That's her. When a ma'soom says something about someone, it is not emotional. It's not based on feelings of a father towards a mother. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, I will give you Fatima Sughra, my daughter. But Sukaina, she has a special thing about her life, which is related to her relationship with Allah and her worship and her dedication. Now, it's interesting because there is a line of poetry which is attributed to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, narrated in Sunni and Shia literature, where he praises Sukaina and his wife Rabab. He goes on, Imam alayhi salam would say that this particular house that Sukaina and Rabab are in are my favorite. وإني لأحب دارا فيها سكينة والرباب. I love this house that has Sukaina, my daughter, and Rabab. This highlights that Imam had a special relationship with his daughter Sukaina. And we saw that on the day of Ashura, in the farewell. Many of the maqtals, when we recite the maqtal, sometimes people think it was the 3-4-year-old which Imam alayhi salam bid farewell. No. Imam did not bid farewell, at least what we know from the books of history, to his young daughter Sakina or Ruqayya. The person whom he bid farewell was Sukaina. The one who was in the corner of the tent crying, and Imam comes and she asks him to put his hand over her head. Yes, that is the 13-14-year-old, as far as the research from Imam Hussein alayhi salam shrine is concerned. Yes, and I know sometimes there's confusion, and sometimes some zakirs or whatever mention and interchange them, but that's their choice. But according to the historical accounts, this is what we have. Now, what is interesting is this lady, and there is so much more to say, but due to time restriction, I'll mention the following, has been the subject of attack by historians and individuals who have sadly depicted her in a manner which is unacceptable. Meaning what? I'm going to explain this not in any shape or form with disrespect to this lady, but you and I need to know what others have written about people we love. Some people might find offense with what I'm about to say, but this is an academic discussion so that you know what enemies have done to Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. If you go back to a book by the name of what? Al-Aghani, by a person by the name of Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani. Yes, he died in the year 356 after Hijrah. So, 300 years after Karbala, this man. He died. This man, he has a book by the name of Aghani. If you know Arabic, Aghani means what? Music, songs. So he writes the biography of those who are singers in Islam. Yes, Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani, that's his job. He writes about this. In this book, and as well as another one by the book Mada'ini, these are the two sources for the filth that is written about Sukaina. And today regurgitated on mimbars here in the United States. I saw a Majlis, a lecture by Dr. Yasir Qadhi about Sukaina bint al-Hussein. He says, I want to praise her, but he attacks her. Yes? The idea is what? He says the following. This Sukaina, he says, this Mada'ini and Abu al-Faraj al-Isfahani, the book, and now it's spread in the curriculums and whatever. She married 6 men in her life, one after the other. Amongst the 6 men that she married was a man by the name of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who was the brother of whom? Mus'ab ibn Zubayr, and from the progeny of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, somebody who was a related or brother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Now, the Zubayris were enemies of Ahl al-Bayt, despised Ahl al-Bayt. So here the accusation is Sukaina, no, she went and married from the Zubayri family. Second, she was an individual, astaghfirullah, who loved singing in public. She would hold open sessions of singing and music for men. And she would invite men to her house to sing. And she would then judge them. Yes, who was the better singer. She was somebody who mixed with men who are poets and compared their poetry, and they would come and use words to attract her. She would be somebody who developed her own hijab style that was like a pyramid. So people began to copy her hijab, which she would make her hair so long, so people would do that, and so on. And unfortunately, the list continues. Yes? You see, you might be surprised about this. But the enemies of Ahl al-Bayt did not only attack the 14 Ma'sumeen. Anyone around them, they would attack. Anyone around them, they would tarnish their reputation. And anyone around them, they would like to distort their image throughout history. But sadly today, our brothers from other schools, they're very gullible. They look at this and say, that's it. That's the history that we have, we'll just take it. And that's how you know truly those who love Ahl al-Bayt and those who don't. Because we, as a school of Ahl al-Bayt, completely reject. Why? You might say to me, this is emotional. Give me evidence. How can we reject these historical sources that point to all these actions made by this holy lady? The following is how we reject it. Number one, these narrations are from whom? A man by the name of Zubayr ibn al-Bakkar. Zubayr ibn al-Bakkar used to work for who? Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Hater of the Ahl al-Bayt. The one who convinced his father Zubayr to attack and fight Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Battle of Jamal. Yes? So it's all linked together. And as Zubayr ibn Bakkar was known to be a liar. Historically today, if you research about him, he was somebody who lied and deceived and cheated, and he would say what? He would say these things just to somehow get whatever he wanted there. Secondly, the idea is that there used to be a lady by the name of Sukaina bint Khalid ibn Zubayr. Please pay attention to this. Sukaina bint Khalid ibn Zubayr was from the Zubayri clan. She was a singer, she used to mix with men and so on. The Zubayr family, they wanted to exonerate her and attack Sukaina bint al-Hussein. So all the accusations that this Sukaina bint Khalid ibn Zubayr, they put it on whom? The daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Because she, the Sukaina bint Khalid bin Zubayr, was well known for her singing and for her immoral behavior. Because the Zubayr family, Abdullah bin Zubayr, Mus'ab bin Zubayr, these individuals hated Ahl al-Bayt. They did everything possible to attack the Ahl al-Bayt alayhum salam. So it was in their interest. Also, they wanted to somehow say, if we have a Sukaina that did this, you also have a Sukaina who did this. Somehow to say it's fine that we both have something like this. How do we reject this? We say, number one, when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said Sukaina is somebody whose life is dedicated to serving Allah. He was saying it because he knew that there will be enemies who will come and attack her personality. Notice, the Ahl al-Bayt have that foresight. Imam would say to Hassan al-Muthanna, I'm not going to give you Sukaina. But then he praises his daughter Sukaina to say, listen, there is something about her. She has istighraq billah. Istighraq is a deep word. That means she is enriched. She's encapsulated herself completely in devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means she's far away from these kind of immoral acts. She would never do such a thing. Number one. Number two, the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam are a household of purity. They are role models. They are exemplary individuals. If, God forbid, anybody would like to say, yes, Sukaina bint al-Hussein did this, give me one evidence. Why is it that no one around her, such as Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, or any other person came and said to her, don't do this? Surely there should have been some condemnation, some criticism, something from someone from the Ahl al-Bayt. This is not something acceptable. This is not something people usually do. Ladies would sing publicly and get men. Where is the condemnation from the Ahl al-Bayt? There is nothing, which means it was fabricated. Which means her name was distorted and changed with that Sukaina from the Zubayr clan. And likewise, the Ahl al-Bayt's women were amongst the most protected women. They were individuals who will not be going out in public in front of people. We have narrations that Amir al-Mu'mineen would stand in front of Sayyida Zainab, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when she would come out. And this idea of modesty and chastity was something that the Ahl al-Bayt emphasized upon all their women. And this is something that's well recorded in historical accounts. And therefore the recognition that emerges is what? Is that this particular lady is and truly has nothing to do with all these accusations. But a person who in Karbala had a number of pivotal roles, meaning what? She was a solid, great supporter to her father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, as well as, of course, her auntie Sayyida Zainab. In narrations, she was somebody who nursed and looked after Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Only 13 years of age, but with the maturity to act like a mother. She was amongst those who would be next to Imam Zain al-Abidin despite the difficulties, despite the hardship, despite the pain that indeed all these particular ladies would go through. But the lesson that truly we learn from this great lady was what? Number one, she was a defender and the protector of hijab without a shadow of a doubt. Because truly we find these ladies, each and every one of them, one of their main aspects that they would fight for, including of course their head, Sayyida Zainab on the courtyard of Yazid, she would say, is it fair, oh man, that your women are covered, whereas the daughters of Rasulullah have been exposed in such a way. Sayyida Sukaina was amongst those who was advised by Imam Hussein alayhi salam to remain steadfast, but also to protect the Islamic dress code of chastity and indeed modesty. At the same time, she developed a formidable relationship with her father. Truly wonderful example of the relationship that can be developed between a father and the daughter, and how Imam al-Hussein's compassion and love was something that was witnessed when it comes to this daughter of hers. But I asked, daughter of his, I ask you the question that this lady on the plains of Karbala and after Karbala was amongst the eyewitnesses, the ones who saw one musibah after the other. But we have narration to say on the night, that night of Sham Ghariba, the riwayat says that Sukaina, this 13-year-old, was not to be found in the tents anywhere. Sayyida Zainab became worried. She came out of the tents looking for her. Where is Sukaina gone? Where is she? This is dark, pitch black. There is no light out there. Where can I find her? The riwayat says Sayyida Zainab knew where to go. She found Sukaina next to the body of Abu Abdullah. That Sukaina had sat next to the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. For a 13-year-old to see the body of her father headless, for a 13-year-old to see the body of her father torn into pieces, for a 13-year-old to see the body of her father stabbed in so many places, what would it do to anyone, let alone to know that your father is Sayyid Shababi Ahl al-Jannah, the grandson of the Holy Prophet? That is why Sukaina, according to the riwayah, Sayyida Zainab observes what she does, and she is seen speaking to her father, shedding those tears. I wonder what she said. The poet portrays this particular moment beautifully. Says, Sukaina would probably say to her father, "Oh Abu Abdullah, oh my dear father, if only you were there to see what they did to us after you. If only you were there to help us, because that Shimr the La'een would poke me with his spear. Because when I was young, I heard the story of my mother Fatima being slapped. But father, wallah, they slapped me on my cheeks. I saw them slapping my auntie Zainab. I saw them snatching my hijab and the hijab of the ladies. Oh, Father Abu Abdullah, they took away my earrings and made my ears bleed. Ya Abu Abdullah, oh my dear father, how much we miss you. We are ready to sacrifice all this if only you would come back. Ya Abu Abdullah, my father, they sent the tents alive in fire. They ran after us from one place to another. They made us petrified and scared. Imagine that this daughter of Imam al-Hussein is now telling her father all this. I saw the narration that says Sayyida Zainab heard something. What did she hear? She heard a sound coming from the direction of the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The sound said that Shi'ati mahma sharibtum azba ma'in fadhkuruni. There was a message that Sukaina heard from the body of Imam al-Hussein. The message is for you and I, yes? Imam says, oh my Shia, every time you drink some water, remember me. Remember my thirst on the plains of Karbala. Don't forget my thirst. Because Imam Zayn al-Abidin, whom we are remembering, the riwayah says that when he was in this particular tent and he was suffering with some ailment, all of a sudden he woke up. You know why he woke up? Because he heard the sound of his father's voice. He heard Imam al-Hussein say, "Ala hal man nasirin yansuruna, ala hal min mughithin yughithuna." Is there anyone to help us? Is there anyone to defend us? Is there anyone to protect the sanctity of the Holy Prophet and his family? He said to his auntie Zainab, "Give me a sword and give me a stick, because I would like to rise." Why? I would like to use the stick to rise, but the sword to fight and defend my father Hussein. And of course Imam enters. The narration says when he enters, he said to Kulthum, "Please stop him. I don't want the progeny of the Holy Prophet to end, and I don't want him to be killed." But then the riwayah says something amazing. He says Imam al-Hussein came next to his son Zayn al-Abidin, and he began to whisper something on his ears. This was one of the last things Imam Zayn al-Abidin heard from his father, Imam al-Hussein. Later Imam Zayn al-Abidin was asked, "What did your father say to you in the last moments before he left on the plains of Karbala?" He said to me, "Please send my Shia my salam." Allahu Akbar. Yes, Imam is sending a salam to you and I. Sayyid al-Shuhada is appreciative of these tears, appreciative of the azaa, appreciative of the calamities that indeed we feel of the tragedy of Karbala. But no doubt this Sukaina, one of the moments that her heart would break is in the dungeons of Sham, when she looks at her own sister, that Sakina, that Ruqayya, and the fact that she was asking for the head of Aba Abdullah. Imagine the 13-year-old comforting the 3-year-old. Imagine she's telling her, "It's okay, don't worry." But how then she will deal with the news that Imam Zayn al-Abidin announced that, "Oh, my auntie Zainab, come and take the body of my sister Ruqayya Sakina." That this particular musibah was very difficult for whom? Was very difficult for this Sukaina. But no doubt when she came back to Karbala on Arba'een, no doubt there was one thing in her mind, and that is to visit the grave of her father in remembrance of Aba Abdullah, but also one other shaheed, whom her own brother Ali al-Asghar, isn't it? Because she would sit next to the grave of Aba Abdullah and weep and remember the arrow that slit the throat of Asghar, that young baby that was slaughtered thirsty. Sukaina would cry and cry, "Oh, my young baby brother, come back so I can feed you." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين وإنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us tawfiq to follow in the footsteps of these ladies of Ahl al-Bayt, and also to be able to study their lives and defend their integrity. Ma'tam Hussein, Ya Hussein.
उस वक्त जब के ज़ैनब दरबार में गई थी, ख़ार नमाजियों से महफिल सजी हुई थी। ज़ालिम ये पूछता था, गाजी तेरा कहाँ है, बालों से मुँह छुपाए। ज़ैनब ये कह रही थी, है ए मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ ए मेरे बाबा जान। سر چھپاؤں کہاں میں بھی ہوں مرضیہ بیت خیر النساء میرا لہجے میں ہے بابا تیری ادا نام زینب میرا تو نے جو رکھ دیا دے دی اپنی زبان میرے سر چھپاؤں کا بابا جان میری دا مانگتی رہ گئی بامدر سج گئے جیتے جی مر گئی حلقہ شام میں نام سن کر میرا مر گیا ناتواں میرے بابا جان ہو رہی ہے اذان سر چھپ بابا جان یہ تیرا آخری تھا بیان تیری چادر بچائے گا غازی جوان مر گیا با وفا چھن گئی غیر دا کہتی ہے بیبیاں اے میرے بابا جان سر چھپاؤں کہاں رک نہ پایا میرے با وفا کا وہ سر نوکنے زا سے آنے لگا خاک پہ بہن کو در بدر دیکھ کر ننگے سے چین پایا جوان اے میرے بابا جان
Is there anybody who'd like to give azan?